Hello there, very good evening to you. Welcome to State of Affairs here on GHOne television. My name is Lantam, Papanko, sitting in for Francis Aban today. And over the next hour, you can imagine that on State of Affairs, we're going to be discussing issues that have emanated from the budget presentation. The 2022 budget was presented by the Finance Minister in Parliament. That was the day before yesterday. Today, you can imagine that in the media space, a lot of discussions have been about the budget presentation. There are quite a number of issues that have come up for discussion. The government, through the Finance Minister, put forth various areas that the 2022 budget is going to focus on. Essentially, what this government, the NPP administration led by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is going to focus on in the year 2022. I'm pretty sure you've been following discussions as regards, for example, the E-Levies that have been introduced, the modalities surrounding the E-Levies, what kind of impact it's going to have on Ghanaians moving forward, the number of people who are kicking against this E-Levy, and the defense of the government of this E-Levy as a source of generating the necessary income we need to pursue the developmental agenda of this country. Of course, we know that there has also been the abolishment, if you like, of the import levies, or should I say the benchmark values, 50%, 30%, that has been done away with. There are some initiatives which are being introduced to make sure that job creation becomes a reality for the good people of this country who are unemployed. So there's a fund which is being set up to ensure that people have a lot of jobs to do. Toll booths, or should I say road tolls or bridge tolls, are also equally going to be scrapped. There was an issue about that in Parliament earlier today. We'll talk all about these issues here on State of Affairs this evening. Once again, let me remind you that we are live on GHOne television. We are live on channel 361 on DSTV. We are also live on Facebook, so connect with us on our social media platforms. Let's know what your thoughts and opinions are on these issues that we're going to discuss on State of Affairs today. Let me introduce my guests in the studio this evening. Joining me from the side of the majority in Parliament, or should I say the government, I've got the Member of Parliament for the Sisala East constituency. He's also the Deputy Sanitation Minister, the Honorable Amidu Isaha Kuchinia. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening.
Forgive me, I'm used to saying
we are used to saying morning. Program,
so. Forgive me for that. Good evening. Good to see you here.
Good to see you
this evening. Also in the studio is the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Gomwa West constituency, the Honorable Richard Jan Mensah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy to have all of you here. But before we get into the details of the program, if we can just take a look at some of the key areas that the budget is going to be focusing on. There are some key areas that the government is going to be focusing on as presented by the Finance Minister. So if you look at the year 2022, for example, number one, they say that they are going to activate the U-Start nationwide to promote skills and entrepreneurship for the youth. I'm pretty sure you see it up on your screen in a jiffy. They're also going to keep supporting private sector to expand and offer jobs for Ghanaians, prioritize the completion of ongoing projects in health, education, and housing, and sustain revenue mobilization efforts. So this is the first four. They go on to say in the budget presentation that they are going to continue to reposition Ghana as a regional hub to optimize opportunities and also continue resourcing our security agencies to defend and protect, and continue reforming the energy sector to promote climate resilience and drive adaptation of renewable energy technologies. Of course, we had this, I don't know why it's not up yet. We had some infographics on that for you that we're expected to project on the screen. I'm pretty sure the technicians will work on that and put it up on the screen. So what you see now is for the U-Start. And, well, it's got to do with job creation. So let me begin with you from government, Honorable Chinia. When you take a look at the budget, we know that one of the big problems that we have here in this country is unemployment, which a lot of people have cried about. And so the expectation was that there will be some measures put in place to address the unemployment situation. So what would you tell the people who are watching right now that the government is going to do about the unemployment situation, especially as regards this budget?
Well, thank you, Lantam. And let me say good evening to my colleague member of parliament and good evening to all viewers of GH1 this evening. As required by the Constitution of Ghana, the finance minister has to, on behalf of the president, present the budget for the ensuing year. And yesterday we had the opportunity of receiving him in parliament, and he presented the budget for the year ending 31st December 2022. And like you have stated, in there are a lot of policy prescriptions that are geared towards resolving the challenges that confront Ghana. And one of them being unemployment and underemployment. The finance minister was very clear in the budget that he presented on behalf of the president that the statistics of unemployment is worrying and is an issue of national security threat. Mm-hmm. I mean, where you have a lot of young people leaving school and they can't find jobs, then they become a threat because by all means they have to survive. And if they can't find jobs, they have to find their own ways to survive. But Lantam, we all know that all over the world, governments or the government sector cannot employ, up to 40% of people who are willing to work and are ready to work. What you can do to create more employment is through the private sector. And that is why in this budget, the government is prescribing this youth start and then the development of entrepreneurial skills. So the target is to make sure that government train people, develop their skills, and finance their businesses so that people can, on their own, establish some businesses and begin to employ. And then also, beyond supporting people to be able to establish their businesses, government also want to continue to support the private sector in entirety so that the private sector, like we keep saying, will be the engine of growth, will be the center of attraction, will be the center to create the jobs for the many Ghanaians who are living tertiary institutions, some living the secondary school level, who cannot continue their education, so that they can get employed. In the last 4 or 5 years, government has tried to put in short-term measures and long-term measures in terms of employment. In terms of the short-term measures, we've had NAPCO in the last 4 years where we have recruited about 100,000 people. And at the moment, about 37,000 of them have gotten permanent jobs into either education, security agencies, local government service, and other sectors of the economy. But the rest that remain on NAPCO, yesterday's budget was clear that they will keep them to continue to be there, and then they are going to add another 100,000. And then all these people will be given the opportunity to join the youth start, where they'll be given skills training, and then they'll bring proposals, and then the government will support them financially so that they can start their own businesses.
How feasible is this youth start? We've heard of these kinds of initiatives before. So, for example, the government is saying that under the youth start, support is going to be given to enterprises with the following products. District level loans under 10,000 Ghana cedis after 2 to 3 months of training, soft loans to up to 50,000 Ghana cedis to help startups, in particular young graduates and school leavers, and small businesses to expand startup packs of up to 50,000 Ghana cedis for individuals and 100,000 Ghana cedis for associations or groups, and also a standardized loan package of between 100 and 400,000 Ghana cedis at concessional rates for SMEs through financial institutions. I've heard some people, talk about the fact that when some of these schemes are introduced, it's difficult for people to access these loans. And sometimes it becomes a subject of whether or not you have a party card, among other things. So, what's the guarantee that this is going to work and this is going to help drive the job creation agenda that the government needs to put in place for the people of Ghana?
Lantam, first of all, is it not the case that for us to develop as a country and create the necessary jobs, we can only do that by developing the private sector? That is a reality. Whether it is MPP or NDC or whichever party that is in government, the truth, the honest truth is that you can create jobs by enhancing the private sector, by creating an environment that allows individuals and groups to establish businesses and grow. So once that is a reality, and government has made this proposal, and you can see that there are different categories of proposals as you have read, targeting at different groups of people, because individuals out there don't have the same capacity, they don't have the same skills, and so there are different categories of people that the scheme will be taking care of. For me, in terms of the politics of it, all of us have to rise above the politics, because we have a country to develop. And so if there is a policy like this, all of us must come together and support the government and make sure that whatever the government needs to do to make sure the policy works, so that at the end of the day, unemployment and underemployment can be reduced to the barest, minimal level, so that we can avoid crime in the country as a result of unemployment. And so I will say that as a parliament, we need to hold the finance minister and the government accountable. That is why we have to approve the budget. And once we approve the budget, from time to time, we have a responsibility. We can summon the finance minister to parliament. We can summon any minister to parliament, so that they answer questions on how these programs are being run. So first of all, let's accept that it is a good proposal. It's going to solve unemployment issues. And then the next step will be to hold the executive accountable and make sure that the program is implemented in the best way in the interest of Ghana.
Honorable John Mensah, do you see anything in this 2022 budget which realistically would drive, or should I say provide, that necessary enabling environment for entrepreneurs to thrive and also to create a lot of jobs? This is coming on the back of what the government says they've done to make sure that they create that environment, or they've created jobs. They talk about employing people in NAPCO, they talk about employing people in the government sector, among other things. And then they are introducing this U-Start. So with all of this, do you see that it is the way to go in terms of making sure that the people who don't have jobs to do in this country find something doing to earn an income?
Thank you, Lantam. I think, first of all, I would like to take the opportunity to say a good evening to my colleague. We are in the same committee, Environment Committee, and also to our cherished viewers I say good evening. Lantam, if you look at the policy, the economic policy that was presented yesterday, you see, as a member of parliament and everyone, anytime you hear of employment opportunities, you become very happy and you readily embrace it. But now, if we look at what has happened in the past, especially if you look at the 2021 budget and the mid-year budget, we heard something about Youth Bank. So it seems to me, even though we are all looking for an opportunity to create jobs for the teeming youth or the unemployed youth to get opportunity to work, we don't want to look at it from the point where it becomes more or less like a slogan. Because we all know that when it comes to employment, the private sector absorbs a lot more people even than the government.
Yes.
And from the private sector, it tends to also provide sustainable jobs for the youth. But now, if you look at currently, especially in the manufacturing sector, it is quite difficult for somebody to be able to hold himself and then be able to thrive as a manufacturer, because the environment itself is not very conducive. Importation of products, raw materials, especially in the case where you have to bring some raw materials, are quite so expensive. So you are tempted to employ just a few people as compared to where you can employ more.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at government interventions that have come, that have been implemented recently, one example is the 1D, 1F.
Yeah.
You can see a lot more companies that supposedly has been established, but you go there and there's nothing happening there. So
with 1D, 1F?
Yes. I can give you a typical example. There are some, if you look at the resources that have been given to them, especially in the case of areas where they have already started. Let's forget about those who are in the pipelines. You see that the number of youth that are expected to be employed are minimum as compared to the people that are expected to be employed. Actually, some of it has to do with the fact that we tend to over-exaggerate on these issues for maybe some political expediency. So I am of the view that with whatever has been mentioned in the budget, especially with the U-Start.
U-Start. It was U-Bank, it is now U-Start.
Yes, so U-Bank, U-Start. It started U-Bank, nothing has happened. Now, so what is a guarantee that with U-Start something is going to happen? Now, let me give you one example. With a NAPCO, we always hear that government has employed about 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Lantam, let's look at the 2021 budget. Look at the line item that considers the payment for NAPCO. It's just about 400,000, a little above 400 million. So if you have 100,000 people, you are employing them and paying each one 700 Ghana cedis. That should be in the range of about 700 million.
Yeah.
So why is it 400? Don't they have goods and service cost there? So this tells me that it is just the numbers that we are just coming out. We're churning a lot of numbers. We are doing 100,000. It should be real. Because the issues of unemployment in this country, it's more or less a highly national security threat to every one of us. And if you look at the number of students who are churning out, especially from the secondary school level, because for the past 3 years, if you have had about more than 1 million people who have come out of secondary school, how many of them have been absorbed in the tertiary institution?
I mean, the government gave statistics of, how many people that they've been able to, get into various employment opportunities here in this country. Of course, you mentioned NAPCO being one of them. 100,000 graduates, 33,000 secured permanent jobs. There's the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, which they say they implemented. They say they employed 295,032 people in the public sector. Youth Employment Agency also employed 80,538 people. People who were engaged, or youth, 44,682 youth were engaged in afforestation. So these are just to mention a few of the things that government has done with regard to demonstrating the ability to create a lot of jobs for the people of Ghana. But that is what I'm saying, that
one, we have to look at the sustainability of such job opportunities, and two, whether the numbers they are giving us are real. Because you get to places where you may have numbers of people that they say maybe they are under afforestation. You go there, virtually no one is doing anything there. If you come to my constituency, Gumwa West, I believe that we have a lot of people who are under afforestation, but you go down there and nothing is happening there.
Really? So
it is more or less something is created. One, as you earlier said, that is to help maybe satisfy some party people. That is probably, even though this is a national issue, even with NAPCO, you see people who are presumed to be from the other side of the political device denying access to NAPCO. And I've witnessed some in my constituency. So these are issues that we are talking about. Anything that comes up in terms of job employment opportunity, it should be open for all. And it shouldn't be by selectivity. The next one is how true the numbers that are churning out. But I am very hopeful that if we all come together, the issue of unemployment, it should be a national issue. Everybody should also come to the table and let's all think about how best we can resolve it. So if in the budget, what has been stated, the numbers I have stated, my only doubt is that because of what has happened in the past, they quote numbers, and then when it comes to, they mention the public sector numbers, about 200 and something thousand. You come to NAPCO, you mentioned about 100,000, which I have some doubts, because even with various sectors, the numbers they've not been very consistent with the numbers they are churning out.
Let's not forget one district, one factory has also created jobs.
Yes, as for one district, for planting for food and job.
106 factories operational.
You see, for planting for food and job, that's what I'm saying, that most of them, it's all mostly has to do with slogans. It's so nice to talk about.
So is that how you describe this latest one? The U-Bank and the various policies that have been outlined?
I'm only saying that we are all going to scrutinize this budget. We are here to do that. Now, some of the issues that we need to raise, the concerns, because I am only saying, because what have happened in the past is like, they always talk about it. At the end of the day, we still have a lot of unemployment issues happening. And that is to say that unemployment, nobody can solve unemployment within the shortest possible time. But we should walk the talk.
They demonstrated the ability to deal with it?
We should walk the talk. It shouldn't just be a matter of, for political expediency, I'm creating this, I'm giving this opportunity. Because I mentioned NAPCO. if NAPCO is really absorbing about 100,000 people, as they have mentioned, that is excellent.
Okay.
But the truth is that we are not doing 100,000.
Okay.
Now, we're talking about the U-Starts. This is where U-Starts from the policy statement, providing loan facilities,
soft loans
for, and then capital, providing capital acquisition of equipment, mentoring, and all those things. These are excellent policies. But how its implementation is the issue.
Very well. We need to take a break here, but Honorable Chinia, let me give you 30 seconds for a quick one before we go on that break.
My honorable colleague is doubting the numbers, and he's quoting NAPCO as an example using the amount of money that was released. But don't forget that in 2019, for instance, the budgeted amount was 850 million, and they actually released 804 million. In 2020, the budgeted amount was 840. They released 756 million. It is in 2021 that it reduced to 400, a little over 400 million.
So why have
the reason is that
because some of them were complaining about not being paid.
The reason is that year by year the numbers keep reducing, because if you were working there and now you have got a permanent job, I mean you exit the program, so the budget keeps reducing because of the reducing numbers in the NAPCO program.
So a quick one to this. You see, you mentioned about if the numbers have about 36,000 have been given employment.
Yes.
Now the numbers have reduced from 700,000 to 400,000. You have over 70,000 people or 64,000 people in there. So how can you pay 64,000 with about 400,000? You have not considered costs in terms of goods and service costs. So that is where I have the doubt.
Okay. Hold that thought.
Nothing to doubt.
You're still watching State of Affairs here on GHOne TV. We'll be back to continue with the discussion. There are more areas that we're going to look at. Stay tuned. Welcome back to State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. My name is Lantam Papanko. In the studio with me this evening is the Honourable Member of Parliament for the Sisala East constituency, and also the Deputy Sanitation Minister, the Honourable Amidu Isaha Kuchinia, and also the Member of Parliament for the Gumwa West constituency, the Honourable Richard Jan Mensah. We are doing a review of the 2022 budget presentation and matters arising. We discussed what the government is going to do as regards employment opportunities or job creation. We want to switch our attention to the controversial E-Levy. Now, we know that the Finance Minister said from January next year, we're going to impose, or they're going to impose a 1.75% electronic transaction levy on the value of digital transactions. And part of the money is going to be used to support the road infrastructure development and also improve public transportation, including the purchase of buses. And so the question we're asking on this is whether or not it's a useful tax to generate more revenue. Now, this is the reason why the Finance Minister says we need to generate more revenue. Listen to the Finance Minister talking about our woeful tax situation.
Out of the total population of 30.8 million, only 2,364,348 persons are bearing the burden of the entire population as taxpayers as of August 2021. Only 45,109 entities are registered as corporate taxpayers. Only 54,364 persons are registered as self-employed taxpayers at the Ghana Revenue Authority, and only 136,198 entities are registered businesses at the Registrar General's Department as of August 2021, of which 80% are self-employed. We must resolve by the next census, we should have changed these statistics to become an upper middle income country in line with our Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. We must far eclipse the 20% threshold of revenue to GDP ratio of our West African peers by 2024. Mr. Speaker, domestic revenue mobilization is the key to making the vision of Ghana Beyond Aid a reality. We cannot therefore, as a nation, continue to depend on only 8.2% of our citizens to carry the burden of 30.8 million people. This is unsustainable and defeats all the tenets of economic prudence and moral.
So that's the finance minister describing our woeful tax situation. 30.8 million population, only 2,364,348 people are paying taxes in this country. Hence, the need to generate more revenue for the country. You can see the breakdown on your screens right now as to the number of people who are actually paying taxes. And so the E-Levy is going to sort of rope a lot of people in, because there are over 40 million subscribers who are registered onto various mobile money services, and so that's a good way for the government to rake in the needed revenue. I was told by the communications minister early this morning on GH Today that we stand to generate about 500 million Ghana cedis a month from this kind of taxation alone, which will go a long way to help government in raising a lot of revenue. But of course, a lot of people don't believe that this is the way to go. What is wrong with taxing mobile money transactions? Let me begin with you, Honorable, on this one. What's wrong with it?
Lantam, you see, the first thing, when we're discussing this unemployment issue, you mentioned a bit about NAPCO producing about 100,000 and the public sector also taking about over 200,000.
Yes.
Now, what about the private sector? So from what the finance minister is saying there's about 300,000 people paying taxes. Look at there's much inconsistency in terms of the numbers here. Because ordinarily, even those that have been employed during the short period, if looking at their figures, should be more than that amount. But that notwithstanding, I am of the view that we should look at how best we can broaden the tax net, because it will be quite, it will not be very fair to say that just a few people are paying taxes.
But it's not the case. There's a few people are paying the taxes that they are supposed to pay.
Yes, the few people are paying the taxes that they're supposed to. Even there are others who are paying but also underpaying. But
so it's a problem.
It's a problem.
That needs to be addressed.
That needs to be addressed.
So is this not a genius way of addressing that problem and raking in the needed revenue for government to do what it needs to do?
This is a step the government intends to take in a way to more or less to reach out to everyone. But I think it is something that is also going to bring untoward burden on people who are already paying. Assuming I am already in the tax net, so I pay tax. When I go to, I get my salary, the tax is deducted as a direct tax.
Yes.
I get to the shop to buy, a tax is charged upon on me through VAT or whatever means. Now, you're also saying that when I'm sending money to at the end of the month, the letter I get to send back home, I have to pay taxes on it. And this goes, there's this policy inconsistent. This goes to defeat government's own agenda of trying to promote digitization or e-cash or cashless economy. Now look at this. From the information given, they're going to tax on Momo,
yes,
tax on bank transactions, tax on remittances.
Inward remittances.
Inward remittances.
Yes.
So somebody goes outside and at the end of the month, you're even sending money to family back home to ensure that at least they put up something for you, a structure, and you have to pay on it. Now, when it comes to bank transactions, that is even the most the bizarre side of it in terms of businesses. Because a businessman, now at the end of the month, I don't know, maybe the policy at the end of the day, when they bring the bill, we may see the breakdown and then further explanation on that side. Because, excuse me to say, it doesn't make economic sense to say that at the end of the month, somebody's paying his staff through this bank transfers, and he has to pay 1.75% of it. 2, you buy from someone, and you want to pay by bank transfers, and you have to pay this much. All manufacturers or producers will not bear this cost. At the end of the day, they are going to transfer it to the consumer, and the ordinary Ghanaian is going to suffer for that. Personally, when it comes to the Momo, the threshold is 100 Ghana. When you go beyond 100 Ghana cedis, you're going to pay tax on it.
Yes.
And now that a lot of people, because if you look at the statistics given, 2020, we have almost about 571 billion value of mobile money transactions.
Yes.
Lantam, let this bill pass, which I know we in the minority have already insisted that for that particular levy, we are going to fight it to ensure that at least it is taken off. Because the burden that is going to bring is also going to defeat all the steps that we have taken in terms of ensuring that we have a cashless economy, or to ensure that we don't have a lot of money in the system. Now that Ghana wants to introduce the e-cash, what happens to it? Is it going to be affected? I think that is upon all the policies that government stated. The E-Levy is one of the bizarre policy they have actually introduced.
So you don't think it makes economic sense to introduce that?
No.
So where should government get the money from then?
Now look,
where should government get the money from?
I am of the view that, and it's very also, I would like to say that the bit about the exemption act that they want to, or the exemption bill that they want to introduce, for instance, because sometimes you look at the amount of money or the exemptions or the waivers we give to, tax waivers we give to multinationals. In our statistics, I think somewhere January 2018 to February 2019, we did almost about $900 million. This is too much. Now, two, even in the petroleum sector, even though this fact from the Chamber of Petroleum, from the Chamber of Board Petroleum Distributor, the Seaboard, they came out with a report that the taxes that are lost in the system are in the range of over 2 billion. So why can't we plug all this tax, what do you call it, the holes?
So if you plug the tax holes, that's within a region about 2 or 3 billion. If we're able to plug that, will it still be enough, to generate the needed revenue? Mind you, the amount of money that is being spent on capital expenditure, that is being spent on loan repayment, that is being spent on remuneration, that is payment of arrears and compensation of workers and all of that, is huge. And we will still need more money to do the capital expenditure, which means we may have to even depend on borrowing if we don't find the appropriate way of generating the needed money inland or in the country to be able to do what we need to do. Hence, we need to find a genius way of getting that money, and this is the way that the government believes is the right way to go.
Lantam, I think this is not a genius way. This is a way that is also going to already burden the already overburdened the ordinary Ghanaian. Because as the analysis I gave you,
yes,
we shouldn't always just look at the, excuse me to say, maybe the people we have the lower class people, or the lower income earners. Just look at the middle class, the ordinary teacher, or the ordinary nurse, or even the national service person. These are people who do not make more than 2,000 or 3,000 a month. Already they pay tax. And now every transaction that they have to also use the e-transactions that they have to do, they have to pay taxes on it. They're already paying VAT. They're already paying the taxes on petroleum products once they are burdened on trucks, vehicles, or even buying fuel. So this is, to me, I see it as, excuse me to say, a lazy way of government saying that, because there are other means that we want to move from taxation, and this is.
So what are those other means? That's what I want to hear. What are other means? What?
One, there should be much expansion in terms of production.
So, okay.
Once we are doing a lot more production here, at least it would help us to also rope in a lot more income. Production
in terms of what? Industrialization?
Industrialization.
Is that what the government is doing with one district, one factory?
So yes, they can do more.
Yes.
Now, the other side of it is also what I talked about. Even there are a lot of, in terms of the expenditures that we have, we should see genuine means of also cutting down on some expenditures. Even if it has to do with cutting down maybe the cost of Article 71 office holders. At least we have to look at all these things. Now, when you look at the current expenditures in terms of government office, office of the president, or government machinery.
Yes,
there are a lot of, excuse me to say, we should look at it. Such waste, we can cut down some waste within that sector. It is not always to say that you have to tax the people. There are several ways we can actually generate income without necessarily having to overburden people. Because now, even as it stands now, people are asking that taxes on petroleum products should be waived. Some taxes on petroleum products should be waived.
Yes.
So they are already crying. That one has not been touched. We are introducing another one. Now, government is talking about the property rate and how best we can also do a lot more collections in terms of the property rate. These are also other means, because now a lot of people are not paying property rate. So if it is going to be done well, then automatically it's also going to help shore up our revenue without necessarily having to attach a lot more burden on the people through the same means that we are saying that our government is investing in digitization and how best people would accept it and embrace it. Now you are going to introduce something that would even make it more unattractive for people to go that way.
Okay. You're still watching State of Affairs. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to State of Affairs here on GHOne Television, and we're discussing the budget. And before we went on the break, the Honourable Member of Parliament there was making his point about what a nuisance, so to speak, this E-Levy will be. That's Honourable Richard Jan Mensa. Honourable Chinia, let me come to you now. Why is the government burdening people with this E-Levy on mobile money transactions? Is it not going to be counterproductive, looking at the fact that we want to get to a point where we are in a cashless economy, so to speak? Is it not going to be a deterrent for people to employ more cash and carry services rather than use e-transactions?
Well, Lantam, let me say that I appreciate the submission by my colleague. He's a very humble man, and I know that he understands the system very well. But let's ask ourselves, the finance minister stated in the budget yesterday that we have a population of a little over 30 million people. And out of the over 30 million people, about 18 million people are potential taxpayers. 18 million are potential taxpayers. But only 2.3 million people are paying tax. So 2.3 million people pay tax. But the over 30 million people are all expecting development. Development in education, in roads, in health, employment, and all other sectors. And so can we continue with the situation where 2.3 million people pay tax for us to take care of over 30 million people? And we all know that for the government to run the country, there are two major sources of financing. One is taking loans, and the second one is internally generated funds, the revenue that we generate. And we all know also that as a result of COVID, our revenue to GDP is about 77%. And so the government will have to find innovative ways of raising money internally without necessarily going for a lot of loans. Because when you go for a lot of loans, then your debt to GDP ratio is going to increase to a higher level. But if you are able to generate more revenue within the country, then you can keep your debt to GDP ratio at a very reasonable level. And so the government have to look at innovative ways of raising money. And Lantam, let's look at it. We have a global world, a global system, and the economies of different countries keep changing and keep showing different directions that the government must look at. For instance, as of 2016, the e-economy of the world was given a revenue of $11.6 trillion. That is globally.
Yes.
And it is targeted to reach $23 trillion. And Ghana as a country, when you come to our level and you look at our e-economy, then you can see that in the last 3-4 years, it has grown.
It has grown exponentially.
And it is like that all over the world. Now look at Africa. I'm not even talking about the developed countries. In Africa today, about 26 countries have decided to be taxing the e-economy because it has become a new economy that must generate income for the government to develop the country.
But some have taxed and done U-turns. Kenya, Malawi.
Kenya has not done U-turn.
All of them.
No,
it's
Malawi. It's one country I know. They started.
Yes,
with,
they've done a U-turn. And no, no, disincentive to people to continue to patronize.
They started with 1% and they have reduced to 0.55%.
Yes.
Now, like I said,
and we're on this digitization or digitalization drive. You know,
yes.
So the idea is to make sure that we enter that cashless economy, and we are encouraging people and trying to rope people in. The vice president last year said he doesn't see the reason why we should tax mobile money, for example. He said it on Peace FM, that he doesn't see the reason why we should tax mobile money. So people are asking, because if you tax mobile money, the poor and the like would be paying more taxes, so he doesn't see the need. What has changed?
And
why are we now taxing mobile money?
He didn't. You keep your cool, Prof. Keep your cool.
What has changed?
I didn't hear, but
you didn't hear the vice president say that?
I didn't hear that statement.
No, but
whatever it is, whatever it is, decisions are subject to review. Everybody in your personal life, you sometimes review your decisions. Governments review their decisions. So the vice president is a human being. He can make a statement and later realize that it is not in good taste. It doesn't mean he can make a change. So if he said that there was no need to tax mobile money, and today he has seen the need, he has reviewed his decision. But the point is, in this tax...
Lantam, not to cut him. I think today, if you listen to GHOne, who is a spokesperson for the vice president, he said the vice president have no retract from that. He still holds, that is his view. He still made it emphatic that is the views of the vice president.
Honorable Chinia, you finish your point.
Well, the point I am making is that this E-Levy, there has been a lot of analysis on it. And the reason why between 1 to 100 Ghana cedis is not taxed is because 42% of the people who do mobile money, 42%, do between a cedi to 100 cedis. So even in coming out with that tax, there is effort to protect the very poor, the very vulnerable, so that the 42% who do between 1 to 100 cedis a day, at the end of the day, are not going to pay tax.
So if you do more than 100 cedis a day, means you are not poor. I think the communications minister told me this earlier this morning, that if you're able to do transactions of more than 100 cedis a day,
then you are
it means you are not poor. But a lot of people
not that you are not poor, not that you are not poor, but
it means you can pay.
But you are also, you should also
but is that not a problem?
You should also make a contribution towards national development. You see,
and is that not a further disincentive?
Everybody is crying for
because
development.
If I'm sending 1,000 Ghana cedis, I'm already paying a 1%, on it,
transactional cost,
and then I'm going to add another 1.75%, making it 2.75%. So if I'm sending 1,000 Ghana cedis, I'm paying about 27 cedis.
Yes,
about
27 cedis.
About 27 cedis.
27.5.
0.5 cedis. Correct me if I'm wrong. 27 cedis, 50 pesos.
Yeah.
On that. I mean, the larger the amount, the more it is.
Lantam, it's a difficult.
So it's not going to be.
It's a difficult. It's a difficult situation in terms of the effect it has on people. But as a country, can we continue in this cycle of inability to raise revenue to develop our country? The loans and the grants we get from other countries, they give us those loans and those grants from the taxes they collect from their people. And when you go there, these kind of taxes are there. Everything you buy, what is the transaction you do. I mean, I don't want to. The last time I did I changed dollars, $10,000 to cedis, to euro in Ghana, and I got like 8,600 euros. I did the same exchange in Germany, and I got 7,000 plus. Look at the amount. Look at the difference. And we get loans and grants from Germany. You change $10,000 in Ghana to euro, you get 8,600. You change the same 10,000.
80,000. Maybe it's 10,000.
8,600.
That's $1,000. 1,000 euros.
8,600 euros. That is $10,000.
Yes.
We'll give you 8,600.
So this should be about 80,000.
Okay, so in essence, you believe this is the best way to go?
Well, it's good
for the people. It's good to tax mobile money
because you are looking at getting more.